On October 28, 312 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine faced his co-ruler Maxentius at an event known as the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. Before the battle, Constantine looked up into the sky and saw a bright cross of light displaying the words, "In this sign, conquer." That same night, Christ appeared in his dream telling him to use the sign of the cross in the upcoming battle as protection against his enemies. So, Constantine had the Chi-Rho symbol painted onto his soldiers' shields, and, after fighting with great courage, Constantine and his army came out victorious. From that moment onwards, Christianity began growing in popularity throughout the Roman Empire, and today, a mere 1700 years later, the religion has amassed over 2 billion followers. But it's been commonly believed that in its early days, Christianity was an underground religion, with believers worshipping in secret and operating in a covert way to avoid getting persecuted. Was this really so? I'm Madam Archaeologist, your go-to informant on everything archaeology, and in this episode, I'll dive into what the archaeological and historical evidence really tells us about the idea that early Christians practiced underground. Is this idea reality, or is it just another fallacy in our history? First of all, what exactly is an underground religion? Simply, it means that worship took place in secret. Some have taken this to literally mean practicing underground, as in subterranean chambers, given that there were Christian catacombs in Rome, more on that soon. But in reality, when we talk about practicing a religion underground, what we really mean is that believers were organized secretly. They didn't want to be found out. This idea that Christianity started off as an underground religion grew at least partially out of Romanticism in the 19th century, and is associated with a so-called rediscovery made at the end of the 1500s, that of the Christian catacombs of Rome, explored systematically by the Maltese explorer Antonio Bosio, but not excavated systematically until the 19th century under the direction of Giovanni Battista de Rossi, dubbed the father of Christian archaeology. The connection between the Romantic tradition and the catacombs is quite interesting. The Romantics emphasized emotion, the individual, the mystical, the subjective, and its thinkers, poets, and painters portrayed Christians as marginalized and faced with struggles. From the Romantic perspective, the idea that the catacombs were places where early Christians could practice in a safe and hidden environment whenever persecutions were taking place became popularized. The presence of large rooms with benches within these catacombs came to be seen as evidence for this, where church assemblies could be held. However, we have two things to consider. First, the location of these catacombs, and second, the nature of the persecutions. The catacombs were hardly hidden spots. First of all, their use for burial was not an exclusively Christian practice. Some 60 catacombs are known to have served the population of Rome, and they were used by pagans and Jews as well. The burial of bodies within city walls was strictly forbidden by the Romans from as early as 451 BC. Some exceptions were made for emperors, of course. But because of this attitude towards the dead, all Roman burial grounds developed outside the city walls. The Roman catacombs in particular seem to have developed as a response to population growth starting in the 2nd century AD and the natural increase in demand for burial space that followed. But what's interesting, and most important here, is that the excavated Christian catacombs are located on major roads leaving Rome. Some were even located on the famous Appian Way, which saw thousands of people enter the city every single day. So, the catacombs would have hardly been safe and secret hiding spots. As for the rooms with benches, although these may look like good spaces for holding church assemblies, they actually seem to date from the later 4th century onwards and are interpreted by scholars as having been places where Christians sat down to have meals with the dead, or in honor of a dead person's memory. This is a well-known ancient practice, and it gained lots of traction amongst Christians during the reign of Constantine the Great. Now, the persecutions also did not take place regularly, but in waves. The church speaks of 10 such waves, but these varied in scale, and we only know of major waves taking place during the reigns of Nero, Decius, Valerian, and Diocletian. That Christians were persecuted is a fact recounted by many ancient writers, but it wasn't a regularized practice at all. In other words, most of the time there wasn't really a need to go underground. However, it is possible that different communities of Christians had different reactions to persecution. In Turkey recently, an actual underground city was uncovered beneath Midyat with evidence that Christians and Jews lived there. It's been dated from the 2nd century to the 6th based on the artifacts found there, after which it was turned into a catacomb and wine manufacturing facility, and it's believed to have housed about 70,000 people at its peak. Archaeologists think that it functioned as a refuge for Christians trying to avoid persecution, but of course this interpretation has to be checked against other evidence. We need something that proves the link between the two, Plus, Turkey is home to many underground cities dated to various time periods. More than 40 of them are known, and more have yet to be found. So living underground doesn't seem to have been anything abnormal in that region. Literally going underground may have been one response to news of persecution spreading around the empire, but if it was a response, it certainly was not universal. That's it for this episode. So, was early Christianity an underground religion? The idea that early Christians operated secretly appears to be, at a general level, actually a fallacy, although it is possible that some Christian communities literally went underground in times of need. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to give this video a like. Subscribe if you want more cool content by your go-to informant on everything archaeology, Madam Archaeologist.